Hi, welcome back. So we have completed the master luminance and RGB over in Pixinsight, and now we come over to Photoshop. And I have opened the two luminance and the master RGB. So the first thing I'm going to do is, here's this decon 20. Or actually the first thing I do is I create a star mask. And the way I do that is I come down here and I'll come down here and create a duplicate, and then I do filter, other, high pass, and I usually use somewhere between 1 and 1.5 for the radius. And then filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and the same, 1 for the radius. I click all and do image, adjustments, threshold. Then I will take my up arrow key and click it once, twice, and I'll click OK. I will then edit, copy, and come over to the channels tab. Click this icon over here, click new channel, call it stars, and then Control V to copy in there, edit, paste, and that didn't work. So go back here to threshold, do Control A. Control C, I get a copy, but I didn't do Control A first. That's what happened. So then I come over to channels and create the new channel and do stars. And then Control V should paste in there, right? So I've got my stars there. So Control D just to deselect that. Come back here, go to layers. And for this layer I will put it in the trash, go to select, load selection, and I will click stars, click OK. Now if you zoom in here, you're going to see that this thing got a lot of H2 regions and things that aren't really stars. So usually what I do here is I click the lasso icon, I hold down the Alt key, you see the little minus sign, and then I just draw a lasso around the galaxy and deselect everything. Then I will zoom in a little more, I'll click on the magic wand, hold down the Shift key, and reselect some of these things inside the galaxy that are actually stars. I'm not sure what that is, I'll leave it alone. It's probably a star. So again, I'll just go through, that looks okay. Then what I do is I come up to here and I use the magic wand tool, hold down the Shift key. Some of the larger stars don't always get selected, so I go through here just making sure that they're all selected. That one. This one over here. That one will probably get cropped out, so I don't care. And this is a bit of a laborious process, but usually not too bad, especially with galaxies. You just want to make sure that you've selected all of your stars. And that's okay. Then you come over here and do the second half of the image. I might miss a few, but you get the idea. You want to make sure some of these stars are selected. If I were processing this for real, I'd be a little bit more painstaking here to make sure I get everything. But if I missed a couple here, I don't think it'll be the end of the world. Get this big bright star there. Then I do select, modify, expand. I usually expand about 2 pixels, and then that one, let me see, 2 pixels, maybe, yeah, let me go back, do 3, usually 2, sometimes a little more. Select, modify, expand. I'm going to do 3 pixels. I think I have everything there, and do select, modify, feather, about 2 pixels, and then I will do select, save selection. I'll do this channel here and select stars, and I'm going to replace the channel, so I'm going to overwrite the one I had, and I click OK. And then Control D as in David, and you now have a star mask. Okay, so that star mask is now over here permanently in this channel, and so it's something you can use. I'm now going to take this decon. Remember, this one, if you zoom in here, there's a lot of really good detail. So again, Control A as in Alpha, C as in Charlie, copy this one and paste it on top of this one by doing Control V as in Victor, and you can see here you have the layer. And if you come in here and blink this, I don't know if that's coming across, but you've got a lot more detail. But again, some of the stars in here are starting to get rings around them. So what I do is select, load selection, stars, and then I'll do layer, layer mask, hide selection. So now I'm hiding the stars in this and using the stars down below. I then come over to the mask and I click on the mask, then I right click and do select and mask, and then usually what I'll do is I'll shift this edge this way and just grow those. I just want to make sure that I'm covering all the stars. You can maybe feather this a little bit, something like that. Click OK. And then if you blink this, you're going to see the stars don't really change, but you get just a little bit more detail here in the galaxy. And then layer, flatten image. So I'll back out of this. Now this one's interesting. I don't know, this might be a little bit too bright. So what I can do here is use the lasso tool and lasso around the galaxy here. And I like to feather this. I do Shift F6. So hold down the Shift and do F6. Or you can do Select, Modify, Feather. But I'm going to feather this. I'm going to start at 100. And that's not a whole lot. Let me see. So I'm going to Shift F6 at 200. And go as high as 300. Okay, somewhere between 2 and 300. So I'm going to do 280. Okay. 260. Okay, so 270. So I'm feathering that quite a bit. I'll do Control H just to get rid of the marching ants, and then Control M, and then I will pull this down, and I usually pull it right about there. That's pretty good. I like that. And click Control D to deselect those marching ants. I'll also make a second one around this part because I think it's, again, do Shift F6. I'll try 100. That's probably too much. Yeah, it So Shift F6 75. Okay, that's good enough. Control H, Control M, and then just pull this down. About there. I got a lot more detail down in here, and then Control D to deselect it. So this is my Luminance image. I then come over to the RGB. Look at this. Control L. It looks pretty good. This one looks pretty good. I really don't think I need to do much. So now I come over here and again do Control A, Control C. Come over to my RGB and do Control V. I then change from normal over here to luminosity. And if you look at that, got some good color in there, but it's a little washed out. So what I do is I do my background and I make a copy and I come over to Image, Adjustments, Match Color. And the source is obviously going to be the RGB image. And I usually make this about 125. And I make this about 110. If that's not enough or too much, I'll play around with it. But again, if you look at this preview, hopefully this is coming through to you that that boosted the color, quite a bit. I kind of like what it did there, so I'm going to click OK. Then I'm going to do Layer, Merge Down, so I still have my RGB and my luminance. The next thing I'm going to do is kind of look at some of these stars. I'll blink this. Yeah, you see how the stars get a little bit bigger? It's because the stars in my luminance are a tad bigger than in my RGB. So I have a plug-in, Filter, RC Astro, Star Shrink. So if you Google RC Astro Star Shrink, you should be able to find this plug-in. I forget the cost, but it's going to cost you $50, $60, $70. I can't remember what it is, but it's great, great plug-in, worth every penny. So normally I set the radius to about 20. That gets kind of the medium-sized stars. The strength I sometimes do 6 and a sharpness of 1, but for this I'm going to take the strength down to 3 because the luminance is not that much bigger. If I do 6, it's going to be too much. And then I click OK. And I may have tightened it up just a bit too much. Yeah, now they're smaller, so that's probably a little too much. I'll come up to Filter, RC Astro, Star Shrink. I'm going to make the strength 2 this time. Yeah, okay, I think that looks pretty good. They're very, very similar size. Although, let me see down here. I'm going to call that good. And then Layer, Flatten Image. So now I've got this image there. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in real high out here. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not seeing a ton of noise. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll make a copy and I'll come up to Filter, Camera Raw Filter, then I'll zoom in and I'll use this noise reduction, but I'm telling you, I'm just not seeing, maybe just 5, just it's not much at all. You click this hand and you can drag this around, and you can look in here. Sometimes there's color noise, but I tell you, I'm just going to cancel out of this. I'm just not seeing enough noise to worry about, so I'm going to skip that step. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll use the, again, Filter, Camera Raw, and I'll click on this detail, and I'll zoom in, and I'll use the noise reduction, which works on the luminance, until just a little bit. Usually I don't go past about 10 here, because I'm not using a mask. And then I'll use color noise reduction and play with that if I have some speckling or color noise reduction, and it takes care of it pretty good. I like to do my noise reduction before I do my sharpening, because I don't feel like sharpening noise. So again, I flatten that image, and I'm not going to do that step on this one this time with the noise reduction. I'm going to make a duplicate layer, and then I'm going to work on this and do some detail enhancement. I'm going to do, let me see, filter, other, high pass, and I usually start this around 4, maybe 3. I'm looking for, yeah, probably 3 here, this fine level of detail. You can go down to 2, that might be too much, 2.5, 2.5, or 3. Oh, 3. I'm going to do 3, and click OK, and then filter, noise, reduce noise, and I just take what comes up. This is the defaults, and I click OK. And when that's done, I change the blending mode to linear light. And if I blink that, you can see it really sharpens that up, but it sharpens it up just a bit too much. So I usually back this opacity off to about 30. Now if you look at that, hopefully that's coming out. It really just pops the detail just a little bit. However, again, I don't like what it does to my stars. So I do select, load selection. Now I'm on the RGB image, so I have to go back to my luminance, and that's where my stars is. So I go back to my documents and select the luminance layer where I created the stars, and click OK. And now I've got my star mask. And I come in here and do layer, layer mask, hide selection. So again, I'm getting a lot of that nice fine detail, but I'm not overdoing the stars. Again, click on the mask, then right click, select and mask. Same thing, I'm going to shift edge to the left and grow that a bit, and then feather it up there, click OK. And then that way I have not touched my stars, but I'm getting some nice detail enhancement in the galaxy. Another thing I'll do, again, this sharpening can affect this background. So if you really want to, you can double click here, and you can change this to black. Click on the paintbrush, and then open bracket and close bracket keys. The open bracket key makes the brush smaller, and the close bracket makes it larger. So what I would do is make this fairly large, and then I would draw around the galaxy, then hold down the Alt key and click on the mask, and then I would just use this and paint, because I really don't want it to mess up the background. So I just want it to focus on the galaxy, but I don't want to mess with the stars inside the galaxy. So somebody out there will probably tell me there's a way to do this by, merging or doing 2 masks and somehow putting them together. I've thought there probably is, but I don't know. This is the way I do it. Once you get that all painted black, you come back here You can zoom in. Another thing I'll do sometimes is I will click on the mask and I will make this much smaller with, again, open bracket. And I don't know, there might be some stars that I missed, really small ones that get just, you know, I don't know, a little too sharpened, and I'll go over them with a black color just to undo them. I mean, in general, it's not too bad, but sometimes I'll do that. I'll say, okay, well, the star mask missed this really small star over here, but it sharpened it so much that it almost like stands out as just being too sharp. And when I'm done, I'll do layer, flatten image. So I do believe that this is looking pretty good. I'll double click in here. Another thing that I like to do sometimes is come into filter. First of all, make a duplicate. I did that too quickly. You again click on this, click and hold, drag it down to this icon, and then do filter, camera raw. And it's going to bring this up. And I like to come up to this basic tab, down to clarity, and I make this about 50. Click OK. Now, that's obviously way too much, so again, I'll back this off to about 30 and then blink it. I think that helps a little bit, but I'm going to back it off to about 20. And I'll call that good. And then layer, flatten image. Okay, and then we are pretty close to done here. Another thing I like to do for some of these, you know, this fine stuff here is, again, make a duplicate layer, go back into camera raw, go to my basic tab, and take shadows and yank it all the way up. Click OK. And, you know, I don't know, maybe back this off to like 50%. I'll call that good. Layer, flatten image, Control L. Okay, good. Doesn't appear to be clipping anything. And that I'm going to call a done deal. I think here we've got a pretty good image. So what I'll do is File, Save As, and I'll go over here and click Photoshop, and I'll save this as M51 underscore Photoshop 1, or whatever, you know, do whatever you want. And then I'll come up here to Integrated and click Save. Then I will come up here to Image Size, and this one is, I usually put this in 56.889. So I'll click on this icon over here, which is the crop tool, and I'll change up here this, I changed this to W by H by resolution, and I changed this to 56.889, and this is 56.889, and then what I will do is hit turn, and then first thing I do is I crop, I cancel this, I don't want to do it yet, and so I'm on crop, and what I'll do is just put the image here, and I'll make a crop of this. What I try and do is, you know, like not cut any stars in half. Center this in this nice third area here. Right click in here and click crop. And then you see this layer 0 here. I usually come over and do layer, flatten image. And so that I will save as File, Save As, Photoshop. Photoshop PS1 underscore crop, and that's a pretty good image, I think. Hopefully you agree. And that is the flow and some of the techniques I use, and I think we have a, hopefully you'll agree it's a halfway decent image here. You can play around to taste. Some people don't like these red lanes too much. You can come in here and do Control U for saturation, click the reds, maybe back off. You see, you can just back off the reds just a bit. That's about what, 15? Do the preview. Maybe you like it where it is, maybe a little bit less. Click OK, and then layer, flatten image. And that's where we're at. So that's my flow. I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful. I don't expect that you will make this flow your flow, but hopefully in going through this, you've gotten some techniques that you like to use, or some new processing techniques that you didn't know before that you can integrate into your own flow. Again, look, zoomed in here, I'll do Control L to bring up this. I might be able to back off, maybe put this about halfway, somewhere about there. Okay, so from there to there, I think it's pretty good. That might be a little bit better, and then File, save that. And that's our final image. And you can, crop this a certain way. You can zoom in more, zoom out, maybe not as much. But anyway, that's my flow, and I really hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And thank you very much.